So I've been wanting to talk about the real human trafficking challenges versus the created and the imagined. So maybe we can have you back, or another member of your team who specializes in that, because it's very sad and crazy that there's millions of women, children, and males being trafficked, and the focus is no longer on their well-being. The focus is on finding the perpetrators and creating conspiracies around these elites that they're all elites. Like what I understand is, how can, a famous broadcaster from a certain radio station or show can say that all his friends are culpable and they're not, and the same goes for the previous administration's leaders and stuff like that. So in your experience, is that also another myth or hidden aspect of the Latino experience, is the amount of Latinos that are being forced to work and into prostitution and other forms of abuse, and now that's being muddled with all this other crazy stuff.
So, you ask about expertise, and that unfortunately it's not something which I have significant experience about. But with respect, generally speaking, to your question about, QAnon and some of these conspiracies that are so outlandish, so far removed from reality, as, detracting from the real problem that many immigrants face when they come to the US. Again, I would, posit to you that it doesn't surprise me. One, because the value of immigrant lives in this country has gradually and then suddenly, Trump, been decreasing. And, even in the way the media talks about us, which is a topic we discussed earlier on about, this otherization and this, lack of integrity, and finding out, statistics about, who are the immigrants that are coming here. We're not all gangbangers, not all of us are trafficked, right? Thankfully. But there is a significant number of persons who are, because crime syndicates have grown. As governments in Latin America continue to deteriorate under corruption, and poverty. And, I obviously find it offensive, like you do, that the real focus has been completely taken away from persons who are real victims of trafficking, and who are who are victimized once they get to the US by, indentured servitude in some cases. I've come across cases where I work where folks have been brought over on certain type of visas, and they've been told that, they have to work like 90-hour weeks and give all their money to the sponsors, right? So these things happen, of course they do. And it's wrong. But yeah, the media loves to spend its time elevating, conspiracies. And frankly, let's be real here, because one thing I have learned in my 40 years in the US is that we can never divorce the inherent racism of this country, this system, from what is happening. So it is easier for a lot of people to believe some of these crazy white supremacists who are espousing the QAnon supremacists, who support, the nationalist view of the US that Trump and some of the cronies espoused. And yeah, why would they care what happens to brown people? They don't care. They rather believe that, there are these evil elites who eat children and who rape them, and not really care about what happens to those children who are raped and cannibalized. Rather, the Bill Gates of the world they need to be persecuted. But who cares about the children who are suffering, right? So yeah, it's, I think, a further evidence of the, just disregard for the humanity of immigrants, especially Black and brown immigrants. Yeah.
Well, again, we want to thank you for your passion, and it comes from a life of being around the people. Like later, we can talk about how even the Latino community has struggled to organize, and it's taken folks from other groups to come and support us or lift us up. And that happened with the African American community in the 60s, and we got to keep on fighting. If we get complacent, then things get worse. So